Hi, welcome to this course Learn MVVM in Xamarin Forms and C#. My name is Asfan and I'll be taking you through this journey. So I'm here to tell you all the awesome things that you can look forward to as a part of this course. Because of my community activities and technical skills, Microsoft has awarded me with the title and award of MVP, that is Most Valuable Professional. Beside Microsoft, I'm also a Xamarin University Most Valuable Professional. And I'm super excited to be your instructor in this course. Well, there are so many information out there on the internet. So many courses, tutorials, classes and books that you can read. But there is never a real guide that teaches you the fundamentals of MVVM with real-time application. In this course, I'll be taking you to the world of MVVM and we will cover all the core concepts of MVVM as well as MVVM Prism. I guarantee that there is no course out there that is as comprehensive and easy to follow. Also, I'm going to constantly updating the course with new information when need arises. Before taking this course, I want to set the right expectations so that you can pick this course according to your requirements. I want to tell you who can take this course. Well, if you are familiar with Xamarin Forms and C#, then this is the right course for you. Knowledge of C# is must for this course. And if you are not a good C# developer, then sorry, this is not the right course for you. After this course, you will be able to create the Xamarin Forms application with MVVM and MVVM Prism quite easily as well as efficiently. I look forward to seeing you on the course. Let me quickly show you what is coming up over the next few sections. In the next section, we are going to look at the architecture of MVVM or how MVVM works. Next, we will understand the fundamentals of MVVM like data binding, commanding, iNotify property change and navigations. So at this point, you will know how to implement the MVVM fundamentals inside the Xamarin Forms application. Then we will look at how to create codes application without MVVM. Next, we will create the codes application with the help of traditional MVVM. Once we build our application with MVVM, we will explore MVVM Prism and cover all the important concepts of MVVM Prism like Prism installation, delegate command, dependency injection, and navigation with and without parameters. Then we will create the same codes application with the help of MVVM Prism. So there are a lot of things to cover, and I will see you in the next section. Before we get started, let me quickly show you the application we are going to build. This application is called Codes and it's supposed to be used on your Android and iOS devices. We have a list of codes that comes from the web API, and we can also see the detail of codes by pressing the code. Well, this is a simple application and we will create this application with the help of traditional MVVM and MVVM Prism. The good thing about this course is that I have created the codes API already on the server and you can use this API free of cost. So, are you excited to build this application with me? I hope you are. Then, let's begin. Today we are going to be taking a look at MVVM or model view model approach. Well, MVVM is the base of any good Xamarin Forms application and even the applications that based on XAML. Well, I'm a huge fan of MVVM and it's a great way of architecture the code to abstract your business logic from your user interface. I'm going to take a little bit about the architecture of MVVM because it's really important to know how MVVM works. Let's talk about now the MVVM or model view model pattern and understand how it is working. The MVVM pattern is a variation of the very well-known MVC pattern, that is the model view controller pattern. Model view controller is quite an old pattern. It was developed around 1984 and it was widely used especially in web-based frameworks. Here we have a model which is where the data comes from. It could be a database or it could be a web services, etc. Then we have a view, which is what the user is seeing. And we have a controller which is coordinating all the actions. It is in charge of refreshing the model, it is in charge of displaying the data in the view, and it is in charge of reacting to events from the view. Well, MVC is very widely used, but when you work with XAML, there is another pattern which is even better, especially because of the data binding system. So in the MVVM pattern, we have three layers. The one is model, the second is the view, and the third is the view model. The view is essentially how to display information. This could be anything. It could be Xamarin Forms pages, it could be an Android XML file, it could be an iOS storyboard file. It's just how you display the information. Then you have the view model, and we will see that how the data in events are flowing here. Your view model is a demonstration of what you want to be displayed. It handles how data is flowing to and from your view. In addition, when the view has some event such as the click of a button, it will pass that to the view model. The view model will interact and pass some data back. What that view model is doing, it's interacting with your model, your business logic, your data objects, maybe your Azure storage or anywhere your data is living. So this way your view is not talking directly to the data. It's talking to the view model. Now let's suppose I have some code in the view model and I want to show this in my view, and that where the magical data binding framework lives. It's a glue that magically binds your view to the view model specifically. And that's what Xamarin Forms data binding framework comes in. We will talk about the data binding later in this course, but right now let's dive deeper into the MVVM. I have already mentioned that between the view and view model we have a data binding frameworks. And this data binding is used to pass the information to the view from the view model. But very often we have a data binding going between our view and the model classes directly. And let me clear things again. It's said that view don't talk directly with the model, but this is not always true. Sometimes situation comes when it's necessary to create a binding between the view and the model. And as we move forward in this course, we will take a more closer look via practical implementation. In this module, I'm gonna create a new Xamarin Forms project so that we can start our journey in this series. So without wasting any time, let's switch to the Visual Studio and create a new project and choose Cross-Platform Template, and then name your project to whatever you want. I'm gonna name it Course Application. After this, you will see a window that says what kind of project you want. Or you want to target Xamarin or Xamarin Forms. Well, in this course, my target is Xamarin Forms. So I'll simply select the Xamarin Forms as a project template. And the next thing is that what kind of code sharing strategy you want in your project, shared or .NET Standard. Also, in the previous version of Visual Studio, you will see a PCL or Portable Class Library project option. But now, in the latest version of Visual Studio, Microsoft and Xamarin team has updated the PCL project to .NET Standard project. So we need to select this .NET Standard option. Also, in this course, we will start the project from scratch. And that's why I'm using this empty template. We have few other options like what kind of project you want, or you want to target Android, iOS or UWP. Well, we can target all these platforms. But no one cares about UWP or Windows devices. I mean, the market of Windows user is less, rather the market of iOS and Android users. And that's the reason I have not installed the UWP option in my Visual Studio. Alright, let's hit OK. Alright, just wait for a moment until all the projects will be loaded successfully. And here, now we have 3 projects inside my solution. The one is .NET Standard project, the second is Android project, and the third is the iOS project. Well, in this course, I will use my .NET Standard project and will write all kind of code inside this .NET Standard Xamarin Forms project. Before jumping into the MVVM, it's important that you have a basic idea of data binding. Data binding is the process that establishes a connection between the application UI and the business logic. If the binding has the correct settings and the data provides the proper notifications, then when the data changes its value, the elements that are bound to the data reflect changes automatically. Data binding is not limited to the UI and business logic. We can also use data binding in our XAML files. In data binding, we bind the property of user interface element to the property of another object. For example, in our case, we are going to bind the rotation property of this label to the value property of the slider. So when the value of the slider changes, the rotation property of the label will also be changed. Let's see how we can achieve this in our Xamarin Forms application. Well, inside the main-page.xaml file, I'm going to add a stack layout, and inside this stack layout, we need to put two UI controls. The one is for label and the other is for slider. Alright, so let's add the label control here and set some styling for this label control, like the font size equals large. Horizontal options to the center and vertical option equals center and expand. Similarly, let's add a text property of this label and set any text whatever you want, because this data binding is just for demonstration purpose. After this module, we will dive into the MVVM, but for a moment, we need to understand the data binding so that everyone can easily pick the advanced concepts when we will jump towards the MVVM. Alright, let's add a text property equals Xamarin, and here we go. Now let's add a slider control and name this slider control to slider rotation. I'm naming this slider because we need to access this slider by its name. Alright, now inside the label control, let's start our work. In this example, we need to rotate the label from this slider. Therefore, slider is the source and label is the target, because we need to rotate the label when there is some kind of change occurs in the slider value. So all we need to do is just add a rotation property inside this label control, and then inside this rotation property, we need to pass the special XAML syntax for data binding. And inside the XAML, we call it XAML markup extension. Now, to set up binding, we need to specify what object we need to bind the rotation property to. So we set source equals, and here we set the reference of the source object. Well, our source is the slider. So let's add a name of this slider here. Alright, now the question is, what property of the object we are interested in? Of course the value property, because when we will change the value of the slider, then it will rotate the label. So we need a value property here. After this source, let's add comma separator path equals value. And here we go. Alright, now in the slider control, let's add a maximum value of this slider to 360, because we need to rotate this label at 360-degree angle. Now let's run this application and you will see a nice looking slider and this text property on the device. And if we rotate this slider, then you will see that there is a change occur in the label rotation property. Alright, now we are going to understand the different modes of data binding. So let's talk about the different modes of data binding in the next module.